Yeah. And Prabhupada would also remember the past. As the years went by, he would remember those early days. And he said, oh, you three came together. And then he would say to me, oh, but you came alone. And so I went into the storefront alone one night to attend a class. And I was shy. But one of the young men turned to me, Ray Rama, his name was Raymond. He said, what's your name? I said, Steve. And so he welcomed me. And then he said, the Swami will be out in a few minutes. There was all straw mats on the floor, and a straw mat for the Swami too. That's all he had, no chair. So then he came out, and he wore white slippers with pointy fronts to them, like bathing slippers. I've never seen any slippers like that since then. He stepped out of those slippers, and they're like genie slippers, and sat down on the straw mat, exact same level as us, and looked around, and then began to chant it, and very slowly play with the cartels. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. We have some very early tapes of those vintage kirtans. So I was very impressed by the kirtan and by him personally. I had trouble with his speech, but still I was impressed by him. He was the first Indian teacher I came across, so the gravity meaning the silence and the seriousness, no nonsense appearance, and the elderliness. All these things I liked very much. Grandfatherliness. The first question I asked him was, he had a protocol of you could ask a question afterwards, so I asked, is there freedom from misery? And I asked him that because I had read it in a book by Van Gogh's letters to his brother, Dear Theo, and that he said there's no freedom from misery. Misery is eternal. And he said, no, there's no freedom from misery. He said, you can break your arm and go to the hospital and come out, and then you'll break another limb. So there's no relief from misery, and even at the end of this body, you'll take another body. He said, but there is relief if you get liberated and not have to come back from the material world. That's the only way there's relief from misery, by this chanting of Hare Krishna. So that was my first question I had asked based on that reference I read. And then I asked a personal version of it up in his room alone when I was thinking of my own bad habits and my attempt to get relieved of them. I said, Swamiji, I was a little more advanced than to talk to him alone, one-to-one. I said, is there a stage in advancement where you can reach a point where you don't fall down again? And he said, yes. That's all he just said. And I was very, very pleased to hear that. And actually, personally, from the first night I went in and saw him, I did break all my habits, or they went away by themselves. So that's, he and the chanting had powerful effect on me. I had a thing that I wanted to get special attention, and I wouldn't go forward unless I was given it. So I knew that he had Sunday morning feasts, and I also knew that he had morning classes as well as he had morning classes every day, and Monday, Wednesday, and evening. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in the evening. But I didn't attend the morning classes because nobody invited me. And they had Sunday feasts and nobody invited me. So I didn't go. But then one day I was sitting, after the lecture, I was sitting on the curb outside, and he waved me in, or he got somebody to bring me in. And he said, you know, we have Sunday feasts. He said, would you like to come to the Sunday feast? I said, yes. He said, you can come too, you're invited. So I started going to them. And then some of the other guys told me that I could go to the morning classes too. But I was very slow unless I was invited. And that's where that exchange came up between us, that I didn't go to the first initiation because nobody asked me to get initiated. The first initiation was so lackadaisical that people went and got initiated without even seriously considering whether they were going to follow the 4 rules. But I didn't think I was ready to get initiated. I wanted to stay independent. So the first initiation was on Janmashtami, and I stayed home. But I was typing for him. So the day after Janmashtami, I showed up at his door with some typing that I had done. And he said, oh, you did not come for initiation yesterday. And I said, no, but I did some typing. I gave him the typing, and he gave me some grapes. And then there was an exchange going on at the telephone for a marriage that he was going to have arranged between Mukunda and Janaki. And he hung up the phone, and he said, you're invited to come to this marriage. You can come. And I said, thank you. And I went to the marriage, and then I was sorry that I had not gotten initiated, so I asked him on another occasion, another day, could I get initiated on the next occasion? He said, well, you'll have to be a strict vegetarian. I said, already I am. And so he said, yes, then you can be initiated. And so it was all, what I wanted to go back was when I brought those papers, and he saw this reluctance on my part not to get initiated, not to go to the morning class, not to go to the feast, unless I got invited. It was like a defect on my part. So he said important words to me. He said, I will love you if you will love me. So that was a big change in my part. He was exposing that I wasn't loving him, but I was expecting him to always be loving me. And I thought, why am I holding back my love for him? Something I dislike about his face or his way of talking or something. I'm not loving him, but I'm expecting him to pour all this love on me. So I just, I looked at all the ugliness inside myself of why I might not be loving the Swami. And I decided that I should just kick it out, I should love him. And then he said, if you do that, then I'll love you. There's no, but it's a two-way street. So that was a big barrier. He exposed that.
He more or less read your heart and
Yeah.
your mind.
Yeah. That would be a good life lesson that in any relationship, certainly with the spiritual master or with any spiritual relationship, a husband and wife or with anything, you have to love the other person in order if you want to be loved.
Excellent. Excellent.
So that really broke a lot of ice, and from then on, I didn't have to be so much invited to things. I stepped forward more. He was teaching from Dr. Radhakrishnan's Bhagavad Gita himself, and some of us went out and bought copies of it too. He said that the translation is 98% good. Don't read the purport at all. It's contaminating. But you can read the English out loud. We had classes, so he would say, Raymond, read 8.7, read the translation, so that we would read the translation and consider it bona fide, that book. And then we had his Srimad Bhagavatams. We didn't use them in any consecutive order. They were just there to read and grasp. It's funny, we didn't study the Srimad Bhagavatam, as I remember it. It's not that everyone had the money to buy them. I bought them. I remember asking about when you get initiated, is your karma stopped? And he said, yes, it's like the fan the electric fan is rotating, but on initiation, the plug is pulled out, and it may take a little time that rotations are going, but there's really no more karma. So questions like that, I'd ask them. I was upset, and with tears in my eyes, I went to him and said, my father said, if I continue to have anything to do with this movement, they won't have anything to do with me. And he saw me, my teary state, and he just looked at me, and he had a kind of twinkling eyes. His eyes were kind of twinkling. And he was kind of saying, well, that's all right. So he was, yeah, I know he's dealt with his students in different ways, encouraged them to keep up good relations with their parents. But with me, he didn't do that. He just kind of smiled and more or less said, let it go. And then not long after that, I wrote him a letter. Are you my real father? He said, yes. The other relationship is material and transitory. I am your real father. So I never had any problem with that. My only problem was to be careful not to give extreme advice to students in Krishna consciousness that my way was their way. I had to realize that relationships could be patched up, and parents and and their children could come together in Krishna consciousness. But I did tell them what happened to me and what happened to Narada Muni. And you shouldn't waste too much time on it. And don't go walking into the face of blasphemy every time you go home and have it, Prabhupada, that, that such and such Swami, that, I couldn't stand that. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, when he was close to his mother up until the end, but he had a habit of writing to his mother. And when he became a sannyasi, he wondered if he should keep it up frequently. And Prabhupada said to him, "Do you wish to make your mother a special object of your mercy?" And so he was putting it to him there's a lot of people you have to save in this world and limited time. I'm not going to give you an order that you should keep writing to your mother every week. You're a sannyasi now. If you do, however, want to make her a special object of your mercy, you can do that. And so he kind of put it as a burden on his shoulder to think about. And he stopped writing to her so often. But they did remain close. In like the Sunday feasts that he served, with his bare feet, just passing by, just like you might see nowadays in India, a boy serving you. So he would walk past the rows of the devotees with his lotus feet, serving out the portions to everyone, the portions that he had cooked and was serving. And he asked me, do you want the pushpana rice or the regular rice? And I would take my choice, and then he would put the one or the other on my plate. And then he would go back and get some other preparation and put it on each person's plate. At the same time we were allowing it, I was thinking that his feet were very worshipable, but still we didn't jump up and say, no, don't you do it. I remember one time when I worked at the welfare office, and they said I had to stay an hour late, so that I couldn't go for lunch. Lunch was a real treat in his room with about 12 devotees, and he sat amidst us, and so that meant I couldn't go that day. I wasn't initiated yet. I phoned his place and I got him on the phone. I said, "Swamiji, this is Steve. Do you know who I am?" He said, "Yes." I said, "I can't come to lunch today. I have to stay an extra hour to work. Could you save me a plate?" He said, "All right, we can." So I came there instead of 12, I came there at 1. And everything was finished. Everyone was gone, and the plates were washed, and he used to have the rug rolled back. So the rug was rolled back, but there was one place there. He said, "Sit down," and I sat down, and then he brought out a plate and placed it down, and then he stood there a moment while he put the plate there, and then automatically, as the plate was there, I bowed down at his feet. So that was one time, maybe the first time I think I bowed down at his feet. He said yes. So gradually then Gargamuni asked a question. He said, if I don't feel like bowing down when the others bow down, should I still do it? That's a famous question. What is it? Prabhupada said, yes, you should.
By bowing down, you'll feel like...
By bowing down, you'll feel like doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So how it became like a more established thing, I can't quite remember. Kirtananda's going to India with Prabhupada had something to do with it when he came back. I remember some boys really getting rebellious when it really started, and they're quitting. They didn't like it. I remember that we interviewed one fellow for the Prabhupada Lilamrita, and he said, when that bowing down started, he said, I knew I had to get out of here. He said, I didn't want any part of this, a movement with bowing down before the Guru. So it was noticed as a big difference. People would say, and at programs, people would ask that question too. Why is everyone bowing down to you? An outsider would say, and Prabhupada would say some different things. They are wondering why you are not bowing down. You must then, there's an extended one, you must bow down to someone. Everyone has to bow down to someone. Why? I don't bow down to anyone. Oh yes, you do. Then Prabhupada would say, do you bow down to old age? No, I don't. Yes, you do. But you must bow down to someone. Why not bow down to a guru, an advanced person? Stubborn persons, they couldn't get the idea that if they bow down to the right person, they would not have to bow down to all this birth, death, disease, and old age. He gave me some business instructions, chastised me. One day I was in Mayapur, and he sent me to Calcutta to do something in the bank, and they wouldn't give me what I asked for. So I forget what it was, but I couldn't get it done. So I came back, having failed to get it. So he said, what you failed to do is you should have gotten them to write down in paper why they refused to do what you asked them to do. He said, so now we have nothing. He said, you're a complete failure. He said, if you had gotten them to write down why this man wouldn't get it for you, or why his supervisor wouldn't give it for you, then we would have had something. So I thought how smart that was of him to get something. You know, if you get refused, at least get in writing why you were refused. That was sort of like Indian smart business thinking that a naive American kid didn't think of. I just got turned away into the street with nothing. If I had a piece of paper, it would have been at least the start of upper investigations. That happened to me once before too, in Indian dealings. At least get something written down. He put me into tears sometimes, though. And then he put me into tears and waited for me to come out with a solution. Not just sit there and cry. There was a time when I sent a letter out in the letter, then when it came to him examining the letter, it said, I have enclosed, it was a letter to Guru Das, I have enclosed the specimen of the letter to so-and-so. I forget what it was. But it wasn't there. He said, why did you say you have enclosed the such and such when it's not there? I said, well, I looked for it in my files, and the files they're not in good order now. I have so many things to do. I'm editing back to Godhead, and I'm still GB. Cook, and nobody's helping me do anything. And he said, that's not the point. Why did you write in this letter that something's there and it's not there? And then I started to cry. And then I really started to cry, and I said, I guess it means because I don't love you enough, or something like that. I was like really going for what was really the real reason that I didn't do the thing right. So he just sat there and he waited for me to come up with something more than that. That wasn't good enough. That was just a sentiment. And then I said, I was just a crying mess, like a woman or something. I said, I'll write him another letter and tell him that this letter was written wrong, and then I'll find the paper. I'll find the other paper. Do it, he said. Then I was dismissed, and I had to find that other paper. But to just leave him saying the paper is enclosed and it's not enclosed. So then I wrote him another letter and said why it wasn't enclosed. And I finally searched and found it. So he could crush me certainly easily. I was cutting some cucumbers, and he said, don't cut it that way. I was cutting it this way. He says, cut it that way. He said, you'll never get it right. He says, not in 300 years. I said, no, I won't. I'll learn to get it right. He said, no, you won't. And he's like, and I talked back, no, don't say that. And he said, no, you won't. You'll never learn, not in 300 years. I was just like, I just talked back. I didn't put any ginger on his breakfast plate. And he said, there's no ginger on the plate. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. And he said, oh, I'm sorry. Just like did an imitation of my insincerity. With the sarcasms of like just imitating my insincerity, it really could crush me. So it wouldn't take much, just a little inflection. And he had some names for me. He called me Dr. Isaac Newton, because I was so impractical. He said that Dr. Isaac Newton was, although he was very brilliant, he was very impractical. He had a friend, and the friend saw that Dr. Isaac Newton was building 2 holes in his door. He said, "Why are you doing that?" He said, "I'm doing that to let my cats in the allow them to come in and out of the house. And I have one big cat and one small cat." His friend said, "Well, why don't you just build one hole and they both can come in and out of that hole?" So he said, just see, Dr. Isaac Newton was supposed to be a great scientist, but he was such a fool. So this was just an anecdote he told. And then, so then he said, "So you students are like that." And then he called me, like, we went to the Hawaii beach side, and we all got out of the car, and boom, locked the car doors, and I left my bead bag in the car. And I said, "Oh, I left my beads in the car." And he just walked off, walking. He said, "Dr. Isaac Newton."
Hare Krishna. This was
Hare Krishna. Wow. So much to learn from Swami Maharaj. And of course, Srila Prabhupada. Jai.
So I'm sharing the presentation on Maharaj. So Maharaj is one of the very early disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and he has been serving whole life. And as we know that he is the author of Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit, the book by which we got to know about Srila Prabhupada in depth. So about His Holiness Satswarup Das Goswami Maharaj. Maharaj was initially, just a second, I think so the share stopped. Yes. So Maharaj was born in New York, United States, and he was born in the year 1939 on December 6th, and his name was Stephen, and he was born in New York City, and he was sincerely searching for spiritual meaning, and he met Srila Prabhupada in the very early days in 1966, and he was deeply affected by Srila Prabhupada's purity and compassion. So he was also raised in a Roman Catholic family, and he was very intellectually inclined and deeply reflective from a very early age. And he was searching for deeper spiritual meaning when he encountered the Hare Krishna movement in mid 1960s. So about being the disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he was amongst the first disciples initiated by Srila Prabhupada. And in 1966, he met Srila Prabhupada shortly after ISKCON was founded in New York. And his initiated name was Satswarup Das. And due to his sincerity, discipline, and literary talent, he quickly earned Srila Prabhupada's trust. And he served Srila Prabhupada closely in those early days and had a very deep personal bond with Srila Prabhupada. About his early ISKCON service, he assisted Srila Prabhupada in establishing ISKCON. He served as temple president in New York, helped organize early preaching efforts, and was known for reliability and seriousness in service. Apart from this, if I said the timeline, he got initiated in 1967, and from the years 68 to 69, he served as temple president in various ISKCON centers, and he was actively involved in book distribution, devotee training, and expanding ISKCON in United States. And in the year 1970, he was appointed as one of the first members of Governing Body Commission, GBC, by Srila Prabhupada. And he took responsibility for overseeing ISKCON zones and institutional development. And he helped Srila Prabhupada serving through administration and guidance. He also helped stabilize and structure the growing movement, always emphasized obedience to Srila Prabhupada's instruction. And in early 70s, he accepted the sannyas ashram and his name was Satswarup Das Goswami Maharaj. And he then continued his extensive travel and organizational service. And then about his literary contributions, he was ISKCON's most prolific authors. He authored numerous books, essays, and journals, and he's especially known for biographies of Srila Prabhupada, which we know as the Prabhupada Lilamrit. And he began working on Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit in the year 1978, and there are various other books, like from the year 1980 to 1983. He published the multi-volume Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit, and it's ISKCON's most authoritative biography of Srila Prabhupada. About, as we know about the Prabhupada Lilamrit, later years, he gradually reduced external responsibilities, focused more on writing, chanting, and remembering. He continued serving Srila Prabhupada through words and example. And about his legacy, he's always a faithful servant and intimate disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He's a preserver of ISKCON history and memory, and is a teacher of sincerity, humility, and reflection, an enduring inspiration for generations of devotees. So, Maharaj's, I was reading an article about his writing style, which he wrote about Srila Prabhupada. He has officially biographed Srila Prabhupada and his Lilamrit. And apart from this, he has wrote 80 plus books, including spiritual memories, poetry, japa reflection, and bhakti literature. And his writing style is very introspective, honest, and devotional. He emphasizes humility, struggle, surrender, and dependence on Krishna. And as we know about the legacy that he has been teaching everyone by showing how Srila Prabhupada talked, how Srila Prabhupada taught everyone from the very early days about remembering Srila Prabhupada. I remember around this time, I unfortunately grew restless with my duties. While I was in Juhu and I wanted some other service rather than just being a servant, so I wrote Prabhupada a note about that. And I put it on top of the letters one day. He instructed me and he said, "Don't be a monkey jumping here and there, looking for some different service. Keep the service that you have and be satisfied with it." So I immediately felt terrible that I had asked to leave my service. And I wrote him another note back and apologized that I asked to be transferred. And I said, "Please, I am satisfied. I don't want another service. Don't throw me away." And he wrote me a little note on top of that one. And he said, "You are very pure. May Krishna save you from calamities." But then later in Geneva, very animatedly, he was talking about the need for a library party. Who is going to do this? We need this. We need our books distributed all over the world. We need a library party. But no one is doing this. So who will do this? I was in the room and I said, "I will do it." He said, "Well, then do it." Then I left the room and I was with the other sannyasis and I said, "Well, I guess I have got this new service." And they said, "Yes. Well, you have wanted some new service. So now you have to have a new service. So now you have a new service." Then later I said to him, "Do you really want me to do this service?" And Prabhupada said, "Yes, you can do it. Get some other brahmacharis and do this. But you have to get a replacement for your servant duties. I think you can get Brahmananda Swami, see if he will do it." I found out that he could replace me and he said he wanted to do it. So amazingly, Maharaj shared about his services. So now we have His Holiness Bhakti Prema Swami Maharaj. I would request Maharaj to share something about Satswarup Maharaj.
You have told everything. Very nice. Thank you.
Jai His Holiness Satswarup Das Goswami Maharaj ki.
Jai.
Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki. Nitai Gaur
Jai.
Prema